We are live for the fourth, I think, false neutral live feed. I called it number four in the title, so it is what it is now. So
Yeah.
We are recording.
we are recording. This is going to Facebook, to our Facebook page, and the to my Tanchinomi uh, YouTube channel. So it'll be available there. So those we're 45 minutes late because we couldn't get StreamYard working properly, which is really surprising because it's been a really reliable, easy to use platform up until now. But considering we haven't used it in 6 months, and so
Yeah. I won't blame it on StreamYard. I feel like maybe there's some other technological impacts that are affecting us, but
we'll just have to work on this again. The problem is this is like $40 a month for StreamYard. It's like
Oof.
$44 a month that it costs. So
ouch.
I only buy a month when we're going to do something. So, um, but we'll do something later this month.
Yeah.
We'll try this again when we can do it right. But anyways, for those of you who may be watching this whenever you're watching this, the three of us did get together in real meat space for the first time
Meat
ever.
space.
And yeah, so we
And also, I'll add, this is approximately, I think, our 10-year, pretty close to our 10-year anniversary of Start.
yeah, I think it was like the 26th of this month will be 10 years since our first episode went live of the
Yeah.
of, lots changed in 10 years. I'm
Yeah, which was not planned. This was not planned to be a 10-year anniversary thing. It just so happened to work out that way.
yeah.
And I remember I forget where we were headed. I think we were coming back from dinner or something, and we were talking about just all the changes in all of our lives over the last 10 years. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 years makes a big difference.
So we got together, we all flew down to Birmingham, Alabama, and we went to the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which was legitimately mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Uh, 5 floors. What did they say? Something like 1,100 or 1,400 bikes on display. 2,000 of them total in the
I
collection.
think it was 1,100 or 11 or 1,200 in the collection, 800 on display. I think
yeah.
is what I remember, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because you go to Birmingham, Alabama, and in Birmingham, Alabama, you really don't expect there to be the world's largest motorcycle display
No.
museum. Um, and then you go there, and it is genuinely, if you're into motorcycles and you have a passion for motorcycles, this museum will impact you. It is impressive, and the collection of motorcycles, the history, the presentation, it is very, very impressive.
Yes. And when you walk in, the 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 first they did a really good job of making this just when you walk in, they have this central atrium with the elevator, so you get to see how big it is all at once when you walk in past
Yeah,
the reception counter. And the first impression is just like you're somewhere in between the Coliseum, the Bat Cave,
yeah,
you know, it's like you're just in this huge cavern of just motorcycles everywhere.
yeah. And I do have to say, I was not expecting the impact that I would feel going into it. And so we had planned this trip, went to Birmingham, flew there, and I was just expecting to see, motorcycles in a motorcycle museum. Um, and I walked in, and I think it was just like it hit me the impact of these motorcycles the history, the importance of it all. And I had to genuinely, I sort of deviated away from Pete and Eric.
And we walked in, we were like, did he go to the bathroom? He was like,
No,
he
because
just
like
disappeared.
I was having a really, I was having a big emotional moment, which it was so odd. I did not expect this, right? I have been to motorcycle museums before. I've seen important motorcycles. I've ridden and owned important motorcycles, but this was different. And I walked in, and it was almost like this immediate gravity of the whole place hit me at once. And I'm gonna be honest, like it took me a little bit of time to like gather myself, just because of the impact that I felt from this museum. And um, in that moment, it all became worth it, right? Like it was worth it to go and meet you guys, all three of us to be together, to go to an important motorcycle museum, even if I was going there by myself. But like all the things combined together, just it hit me in a way that I wasn't expecting, didn't anticipate. And I had to like go and gather myself.
Which is
And
really cool for me because I understand that level of emotional connection when it's there's so much in terms of history and
yeah,
stories and technology and
yeah,
it is motorcycling in general is this 125-year-old saga of
yeah,
so many people and innovations and events and tragedy and victory and
yeah.
just it's
And, my experience is just a tiny little sliver of that, but it's also been like amongst the most impactful things to my life, right? Like grew up in motorcycling, and motorcycling has always been so important to me, and I've always had such an appreciation for history of motorcycling, and all of the things that we saw here at this museum. But um, when you walk into that museum, it hits you like something that you've never really experienced before. And that was different. That was more than I expected. And just that moment alone made the entire trip worth it. Um, and I'll say that um, it's a lot to walk through this entire museum, all the floors. And so we went there on day one. We went through each floor, decided though that we really needed to embrace the rest of it, all of it completely. And so we went back a second day. And actually, day one, we started top to bottom, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah
Yep.
and
And
then
then day two, because you get tired, right? You get like just fatigued and looking at and appreciating all the motorcycles because there's so much. Um, we decided that we would go a second day, but go bottom to top
yeah
and really spend more time looking at the motorcycles
and
completely.
and really you get to a point where and I had the same experience when I went to the British National Motorcycle Museum, ironically in Birmingham, England. Strange
Hmm.
that they're in cities named the same, but I was looking at these historical just things you've seen in books since I was a kid, and it's like you're looking at the thing in front of you. When you have all of those in one spot, you kind of your brain kind of glosses over. I don't know how to explain it, but you can't process it. And really, it was very cool going with you guys because we were able to. We had a little B&B, and we went back and we kind of helped each other process what we saw and what we thought was
Yeah,
important. And really, we were there, 4 or 5 hours the first day. If we had been there 8 hours, I wouldn't have gotten any more out of it. But
No.
yeah,
leaving, talking about it, thinking about it, kind of in my brain going, oh, I want to go back and look at that again. Having the whole rest of the day and the evening to process it and then go back was really the way
yeah.
to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to add that I felt was, impactful was that I have this really niche, like, experience with motorcycles, which is really kind of specifically Yamaha two-stroke road racing motorcycles and not a whole lot else. There's some motocross stuff, but it's really kind of this narrow road race two-stroke motorcycle experience. And Pete, you have just a lot of knowledge about a lot of different motorcycles, and Eric also has a lot of knowledge and experience in like road racing. Um, and I learned so much just from, Pete, you talking about details of these motorcycles that I've never really had that much experience about, but also, Eric talking about his experiences. In fact, we were at one exhibit where there was some road race motorcycles on display, and Eric talking about him announcing for a race where that very motorcycle raced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've never had experience in, that genre, that era, the announcing, the riders, but also similarly, Pete, with your experience and knowledge about these motorcycles that I've never really been knowledgeable about. And it was really interesting to hear your guys' experiences and perspectives on these motorcycles and history that I've never really had that much experience with.
I think the three of us, and I've always said this, bring very complementary knowledge and skills and experience to our little trio, and I think it worked well when we did the podcast, and I think it was true here as well. So
yeah,
and I'd say the one thing that I've always appreciated the detail of motorcycles and things like that. But I'm a very visual person, and just seeing some of the designs up close, and a few particular bikes, just getting up close and looking at it almost as jewelry or sculpture. There were a couple that stood out to me. There was one, like one of the bikes. It's like the fourth or fifth one in some of the photo albums I took, but it was a 20 or 1915's bike, but it had like a leather belt drive, and then there were rivets in that leather belt.
Let me find a picture of that, because I did actually include that.
But while Pete is pulling up that picture, I want to say that it's really striking to see the quality of completion on a lot of these motorcycles. You'll see things from the teens or 20s that are just absolutely exquisitely built. But then you'll see things like Eric Buell and sorry, some of his creations, and even these things that were, like competing in road racing, looked absolutely death-defying, terribly executed.
Yeah.
The difference in craftsmanship and quality amongst a lot of these different motorcycles is striking.
Yeah.
This picture is just a wonderful example where this is genuinely jewelry. This is an absolute masterpiece of craftsmanship and quality.
And it's not just the belt in here; it's the casing with the jeweled metal there.
Yeah, the engine turning on the side of the case.
And even the cylinders themselves look like if you ever see what a sleeve for a engine cylinder looks like before it goes in, that's exactly what that looks like.
Yes.
And then they put some
external
metal
studs
around it
on
for
it.
some cooling.
So. And this motorcycle especially is not something that was mass produced in these high volumes.
Mm-mm.
No, this was one person in a machine shop doing this.
Exactly. So you'll see motorcycles, and you'll expect these mass-produced motorcycles to have consistency and a quality of manufacturing. But here, everything is so exquisitely produced. And then you'll see other motorcycles that, might have been mass-produced that don't even have remotely as good of completion and execution as these, sort of one-off or small production motorcycles.
The other one, and it was like the last bike we were looking at before we left on the second day. but it was the Aprilia 6.5 that
Yeah.
was
Oh yeah. Hmm.
styled by a French person. I can't think of his name at
An
the moment.
industrial designer who was not a
Yes.
motorcycle
Yeah.
industry person.
And I remember, we talked about this. I remember when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, that's unusual, but it's kind of cool." But standing there and just looking at that bike in person, it was among my favorite bikes there, just because there was something about the aesthetic that caught me. And I'm like, again, everyone's like, you two are like, I don't know that I'd want to ride that, but I would,
It-
I just, it just caught, like all of us had bikes that caught us in certain ways, and that was one aesthetically that was just, it just tweaked me the right way. So
yeah, I there are so many things that little details that if you looked at a picture in a book or a magazine, you wouldn't be able to go up and look at the little
yeah.
details. It's sometimes uh, the fact one of my favorite racing bikes there was the Kawasaki Tandem Twin,
Hmm.
and the fact that they staggered the cylinders slightly so that
Yeah.
the rotary discs on the disc uh, intake could overlap and make it. They didn't have to separate the cylinders enough for the discs to be side by side. One was slightly behind the other, so they could inter-rotate. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I would have never noticed that if I hadn't been that close to the actual machine.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was, but I found out there are a couple of things. I always knew that I liked Perillas. Oh my goodness, they're gorgeous. Uh, uh, Mondials,
Hmm.
the Mondials are just, speaking of jewelry, I mean, they're sculpture that moves. Every single one of them there, they're all polished aluminum. They're gorgeous shapes. They all had gorgeous paint on them. And the fact that they're all small, kind of narrow, light machines, which is what I like anyways. They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, there was the other one Garrett was talking about, the Yamaha two stroke and road race. The I was able to get up close with a couple detailed photos of the TZ750, where and you look at the engine cases, and it literally is, two cylinders at three, what was it, 373 or whatever it
yeah,
was, that were together.
343
Yeah, and then
cc's.
how they were supposed to fire, and then there was something about the gear shift in there. I've got took some photos of and things like that that were pretty cool. So
Yeah. I really liked looking like, you can go up to a motorcycle and you can see the whole outside perspective. I spent a lot of time on some of these historic road race motorcycles looking as closely as I could underneath the fairings and looking at how they executed these changes or designs or whatever else. And you can see what they were trying to accomplish. You can see the person that did the work. These are customizations that were not on a factory motorcycle. And I really, really enjoyed seeing the exact things that they did to, accomplish a design change or a performance advantage. And I really enjoyed seeing that.
I enjoyed some things that I did not expect to really be into. The Harley Flathead KHK. I could have sat and looked at that all day, and I'm not a Harley Sportster person. It's like the the Mako Typhoon. Oh my goodness! Just all of the sculptural metal in that was just amazing. You know, the engine cases are half the frame, and
Yeah.
uh,
There is this period of motorcycle design where it really is kind of a blend of art and function. And, this picture that you're showing here is a good example. And we saw a lot of this at the Motorcycle Museum where, engine cases or body and frame designs are really integrated into a shape that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And, you'll see things nowadays like Royal Enfield as an example, um, highly functional machine, primitive and really built to serve a purpose. Whereas there is this period of motorcycle design and technology where it bridged purpose and really integrated design into an overall concept where it just is such a beautiful shape. And you can tell that way more work went into it than was necessary,
Mm-hmm.
but it also created a shape and a design to really make an overall effect. And there is this whole era of motorcycles from a lot of different manufacturers that really exemplified that for a period of time. And those are things that you just don't see nowadays.
No. Uh,
Kind of that pre-war, 20s and 30s design where it was really a blend between form and function.
uh, some of the early stuff, which I've never been into, like pre-war classic, you know, early stuff. Some of them managed to be so simple and kind of unstyled, but still really sculptural.
Hmm.
You know, like their simplicity was uh, what they're all about. I mean, it's
Nothing there that didn't need to be there.
yeah. This Harley just, I mean, functionally not very advanced, but if you look at, other than like the logo and the striping on the tank, there's really not anything there that you would say, oh, that was done as a sculptural artistic element. It's just what it was. Maybe the shape of the tank, but they're really, they were amazing in their, how beautiful the simplicity of it all could look.
Yeah.
The opposite of that was the Alan Milliard bikes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And also really cool to see so many of them in one place
Mm-hmm.
where you can actually get to look at them. And what I love about these motorcycles is the casual observer would look at this Kawasaki and not appreciate how it might be different than any other motorcycle.
Yeah.
It looks like, from this perspective, a factory produced motorcycle, but it is absolutely not. And the amount of effort and engineering that it took to produce this, also in such a nicely um, refined example, it's just really impressive. And this wasn't the only one. There's, quite a lot of these
There's
examples from
the
Alan
V12,
Milliard.
the
Yeah.
V12 one. I mean,
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I think about people that might go through this museum and just see an example of some Kawasaki motorcycle. Um, and it's subtle, but this is so much more
hmm
than just a Kawasaki motorcycle, right?
yeah, they're. I think we all kind of agreed on it that it was. I don't know that I'd want to ride these things because they're sort of impractical and just how wide they were,
Yeah.
but it's still like you say, it's a remarkable amount of engineering to make it look like it came out of the factory that way.
Yeah. And, in the world of motorcycling that I come from, um, there was a lot of, this was before a time where you could just CNC machine a complete crankcase that could adapt, additional cylinders to. Everything was hand done. In fact, to even mount a different set of cylinders on original spacing, there is so much time welding aluminum and, just with a two-axis Bridgeport mill machining things flat. I looked at this. I looked at all of these creations from Alan Milliard to really see how it was done, and the execution was so good
And
for.
he does it with a hacksaw.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
he literally uses
And
hand tools. Now he's got a
exactly.
mill and he does some stuff with it. But if you look at his like YouTube stuff, a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff he's just literally very carefully cutting it apart with hand tools and
Yeah.
welding it back together and then sanding it down.
And it really gives you an appreciation for the craftsmanship of him, because lots and lots and lots of people try to do these things and the execution is oftentimes very poor. But to see, with the tools used, the technology available, how well these were executed, really impressive to me.
Yeah. But the whole thing, I mean, they had all of the like iconic bikes you would expect to see. They had Vincent, they had an Eagle Eye Vincent, they had
Yeah. Black Shadow.
what are some of the other ones that were like, the things that you go to a museum to see? They had an RC,
50 SS.
yeah,
Um,
the
there was
CBX,
NR 750.
NR 750,
And what I want to say about that,
Rough Superior.
Yep.
the NR 750, it's sort of built as an example of what could be done. And from the outside doesn't look like significantly different than any other modern sports bike. But we know that this engine and a lot of the things that were on it were just really never done before. There's only been apparently 200 of these motorcycles built. This NR 750 on display at the museum appears to have never been started or ridden. It still had all the little nubblies on the tires. It still had all the little warning stickers on it. No signs that it had ever been started or used or ridden. And I was really appreciative to get to see one. Again, like from the outside, it doesn't look so much different than a RC51. I mean, definitely different body stylings, but this was just such a crazy creation, at least from like the engine.
And there's no reason for it to exist. I mean,
right.
The whole oval piston thing was because in the 500 racing class, you couldn't have more than 4 pistons.
Yeah.
Well, for a street bike, I mean, make it a V8, make it a 1000cc 4-cylinder. I mean, there's no reason other than getting around the FIM regulations to ever have an oval piston. So the fact they did it was just like we're Honda bitches, it's like,
well, exactly. It was just like,
we're the Honda Motor Corporation.
Yeah, it was like kind of built as a demonstration of what could be done and didn't need to be done. And this is something that Honda seems to do, right? Like, it doesn't need to be done, probably shouldn't be done, but we're Honda and we're going to show you, so it was really cool to see this. I was really appreciative to see this motorcycle in person.
And I really like the fact that they had like Halewood's Ducati from the Isle of Man and Fogarty's Isle of Man winning Honda and Kenny Roberts and Kenny Roberts Jr.'s bikes and examples of their engines and stuff. And then they had like Ninja 250 and a Honda Reflex.
Well, I was say Gilera GX.
Yeah.
Which kind of belongs there again from the sculptural standpoint of single-sided front and rear.
And that Honda...
I was going to bring that up, Eric, because we were talking about form and function and we were talking about pre-war, but the Gilera GX, here we are, I think, 80s manufacturing, and you look at it from one side and all you see is 2 wheel discs and no obvious attachment for them, and pretty cool.
Yeah, they had everything from like ordinary street bikes to one of one like that Honda, whatever it was, like new sports, whatever, that stuck way back in the corner.
Yeah,
they had this gorgeous Honda concept bike that also had a single tube front
Yep.
fork on it, and just amazing stuff. But it,
and, and everything, yeah, like you say, monkey 50s and trail 70s, and I mean, there were I would say millions of them made, hundreds of thousands, anyways, but they were culturally significant, but not
Yeah.
anything you'd think like, okay, why are
So
these why are these
I will
here? Well, because they were culturally significant.
I will say that that was really beneficial to me personally because, hear me out. My wife is not a motorcycle enthusiast, like just sort of, when we met, I was always, motorcycle collector and builder and all those things. But to be able to validate to my, like, I sent a few pictures to my wife while we were there. So, like, again, there was like an 84 or 85 Kenny Roberts RZ 350 that like matches the one that I have. And I'm like, baby, this is in the world's most important motorcycle museum, just so you like it is important. I'm not just telling you this,
yeah,
but then again, there is the sapphire blue Honda Trail 70, and I'm like, look, I'm not just hoarding these things because I like them.
right
Like
there.
these do have importance.
I had to share this one with you because in high school, my friend Greg Behan had this exact model. It's a 76 in the yellow with the black side covers
Yeah,
and no pinstriping on it. I thought this was the coolest motorcycle in the world. And I don't
yeah,
think I've seen another one exactly like it since high school. I was
yeah,
like, I was like, it's Greg's bike. Oh, I remember how much I thought if I could only have a bike like that. And now you look at it and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's a cool bike, but it's not on the level of some of these other, a 1960 MZ two-stroke Grand Prix bike or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But they did a pretty good job. They had a lot of places where they had themes, like they had like all the Honda V4s together. They had turbo bikes that were together. They had a bunch of Buells together, like so you could kind of interpret it.
the board trackers.
Yeah, they had a bunch of board trackers. They had
yeah,
flat track bikes that were all together, dirt bikes that were all together. They kind of went in a chronological sequence over the years of how they developed. And then they had other stuff like they didn't put all the rotaries together. I was like,
yeah,
that should have been a perfect display of here's all the Wankel powered. They had 4 different ones, and they were all in different parts of the exhibit. So
yeah.
Was it
And
the one? Was it the Suzuki one that was made like 24 horsepower? But if you look, like
no, that was the Hercules.
Oh, the
the
Hercules. That's right.
Hercules, yeah,
But like the engine and the gearbox together were enormous.
Let me see if
And
I
you
can.
yeah,
and you compare that to when Pete was showing the one photo, you could see the Norton F1 in the back. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
yeah.
completely different.
And then, sort of down the hallway, there's the Britain motorcycle, which is
Yep.
really kind of there on its own. It seemed like maybe that should have a little more prominence on display in the museum.
Yeah, not that I have a bias towards that.
Um,
Um, and then just
there's the Wankel.
yep, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then a very cool Moto Guzzi right behind it too. But yeah, just you have to see the picture of this. But you just how big the engine and gearbox is,
yeah,
and it made 24 horsepower.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
When I was a little disappointed that there was the Don Vesco Land Speed, motorcycle. It's all streamlined, but it
Hmm.
was like sort of on a shelf in a spot that you couldn't really see well or get up too closely. Um, it would have been cool to see that a little more up close. But and then again, there was a section of the museum that was a floor below they allow public to go to, and on shelves down in that area, there is a lot of other motorcycles, including this Don Vesco Land Speed motorcycle, where you could only really see from afar. Um,
yeah, it's the sort of storage and workshop area down there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Probably some offices and things like that too. Oh yeah, and then also it's the largest collection of Lotuses
Yeah. We should talk
outside.
about the cars because that was really impressive.
Yeah.
that more impressive than I expected to be because I'm not really a car guy, but I very much enjoyed seeing the Lotuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Low
Lodi?
tie.
Lodi?
Low
What's
tie.
plural for lotus?
Lotuses.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, you can kind of see in this photo what Garrett was talking about. If you look on the right side where it's kind of roped off, and you see um, the Miller, the number 12 Miller NASCAR. Which I want to say that was one of the Allison's cars, but I can't swear to
Yeah.
it. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of interesting stuff down there. But and then there were a couple cool things in here. One of the Lotuses you could see. Oh yeah, the V4 bikes that were made there.
Yeah.
Where they had one of the Lotuses, and you had like the body, and then like it was in three or four pieces, and it kind of like how it was constructed. But the other one they did that with was the AJS Porcupine, and that was also kind of cool to see how they had that staged. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've got a picture of that, and I can't find it. I've looked for it a couple times, and unfortunately, when I'm selecting the pictures, I have little tiny thumbnails, and
But yeah, there was the one with that top-down display was Lotuses from like the 70s to the 80s, and you can kind of really see the evolution of how ground effects and aero came into Formula One.
Yeah.
They had Mario Andretti's F1 car there. They had one of his Indy cars there, so that was pretty cool to see. And kind of like Garrett was talking earlier with the motorcycles, you can see like some of these cars, especially the race cars, like they're put together, and you're like, they raced in that, huh?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yes, men,
Yeah.
men were men, I guess, and
yeah,
back in that day, just
There was one of the open wheel race cars that was there was four-wheel drive,
yep,
which was, an unusual concept. And I remember standing next to the machine and somebody was talking about the car and describing it to somebody else, and never was it mentioned. Like, I don't think they recognized that it was four-wheel drive and it had front axles on the front wheels. And I
right.
remember like this guy describing this thing and leaving out the most important part of what we were looking at, which was a four-wheel drive open wheel race car.
Yeah,
And I wanted to say something in the moment, like, do you see those axles in the front? Like, that is important. And it was just sort of missing from the description.
the one of the other cool things too is I don't know how long that the one wing that went off, like as we walked in, and it went off to the right, and it was like the big open space, and they had like a huge I beam. That had to be what, 700-800 feet long, and there were outboard motors hanging off that thing
yeah,
Yes.
the
yeah.
entire way
Yeah.
down. It was just
Yeah.
the craziest
Well,
thing.
and at the bottom floor, the ceiling of that area was bicycles,
Bicycles.
just crammed in the rafters. Like you couldn't
Yeah.
even really see them. I mean, it was just you could just see wheels.
Yeah. The other thing that I really, really wish we could have seen more is on that bottom floor that was not accessible to public, on routine use, was sort of the prototyping labs and restoration facilities that they have to, you know, fix these motorcycles, to restore these motorcycles, to recreate parts that might not exist. And from the level that we were at, and you could see down into it, you could see into some open doors where there's obviously a large volume of motorcycles, cars, and other things that,
Hmm.
are either being restored or repaired or for future display. But then also, what looked like the most clinical, environments and machines for repairing, restoring. There is also another room where you could see, one piece leathers, and there was racks of these one piece leather suits from who knows whatever racers have worn them in the past. And I really wish we had an opportunity to go see that bottom floor. That to me, that would have been where I think I would have really drooled and spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been. It was one of. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm flipping through some of my own photos here, and there was in one of the sections that was sort of about early super bikes and GP era kind of things. Um, Jarno Saarinen, they had a couple of his bikes, and they had there's that AJS
Mm,
one. Yep.
yeah.
And you saw how little this guy was because with the size of his leathers, this guy was probably 5'3" and about a buck 10 on a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the AJS thing was kind of cool. It was that's right. It was two bikes. It was done and then one without.
And they did the same thing with the Elf bike with the
Yep,
bodywork above the frame.
yep. So it was kind of cool. Yep, there's a Yarno's
Mm,
bike.
yeah. Yeah. There's probably no motorcycle enthusiasts in the world that would go to this museum and not see things they'd never seen before, and not be just really taken aback by the gravity of the
Hmm.
motorcycles on display, the history, the
And
importance of it
and and
all.
and they had I was blown away by the fact that they had some things that were like, okay, yeah, you would definitely put that in a museum. Microphone here. I need to mute myself. Well, we may be done.
Garrett, out of curiosity, just mute yours real quick.
Yeah, what happened?
Oh, yours was okay.
I don't know. Nobody did anything. It's just,
Yeah, I think that was Ghost in the Machine or something.
yeah, okay.
I
So,
I didn't hear anything weird.
Oh
oh,
no, it was like a lot of static.
yeah, it was
Oh,
staticky hiss like we couldn't talk over. So, but anyways, whatever
oh,
happened, it's gone. So, anyways, somebody had a army helicopter flying by or something. Uh, there were so many things that were like, yeah, you would definitely want to have that in a museum. There were other stuff that it's like, this is just oddball, weird
yeah,
crap. You know, it's
yeah,
like you could tell that this was. I mean, and of course, Mr. Barber passed away like a couple
Last
days
week.
after we got back. It was
Yeah.
bizarre, but
yeah,
obviously somebody whose collection was just, I love motorcycles. Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
You know, and uh, bikes that I thought I was the only person in the world who even like thought was cool were
See,
there.
when you got that much money, they don't call it hoarding. They call it
No,
Yeah.
you're
I have
you're eccentric.
Yeah, I have to describe to my wife, or not describe, try to convince her the difference between collecting and hoarding.
the thing is, hoarding is useless stuff that doesn't have any value to other people. Collecting is, uh, even if it doesn't have value, the fact that I collected it just gave it value. You know, it's like,
Yeah. Well, but that's the problem is like nothing has value until you sell it,
yeah,
right? Like provable value. And there's all these motorcycles that I hoard, maybe collect, that to my wife have no value because they're just sitting there taking up space.
yeah.
Now I can show her, hey, there is a Kenny Roberts RZ350 here in this museum. Uh, but that doesn't really mean anything in terms of value to her.
Well, and I have to say, getting together with you guys and spending 2.5, 3 days together, whatever it was, uh, really reinvigorated my love of motorcycles. That I was
Same.
feeling very stale, very kind of okay. I've been there, done that. I'm ready to go on to the thing, and I just feel really reinvigorated to the point where Garrett, you were talking about how much you like driving your 70s with the
Yeah.
semi-automatic, uh, the little Cub semi-automatic transmission on them.
Yep.
I found a cheap frame that's an open cradle. It's actually a Suzuki TC 120 frame from 1970,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it would be perfect for one of those horizontal little pit bike Cub motors. So
Yeah.
it came home with me, and I have a new project. And
Nice.
on the flip side, there's just personal, nothing to do with the museum, but I'm kind of shelving the bull taco.
Yeah.
I went back and I found the original diagram, the drawing that I did, like a Photoshop mock-up in 1990. It must have been 92 or 93. That I was like, I want to build a 350 Bultaco street bike, like a mega oversized Matrala, but in a 350, using a big 350 motocross engine. It'd be the ultimate Bultaco ever. And I was looking at it going, wow, this has been like, that 29-year-old doesn't get to tell me what my priorities are anymore. I with my wrist all screwed up, I really can't ride it if I build it. And I just was kind of like, eh. And I was talking to Sarah about it, talking to my wife, and she's like, you're not having fun. This is not fun. This is just stressing you out. You're worried about the money. You're worried about finishing it. You feel this huge obligation. She's like, if you don't want to finish it, you don't have to do it out of some sense of obligation to yourself or anybody else or to me or to your, your younger self or your checkbook. It's like sunk costs. Don't worry about it. Whatever it costs you, stop doing it. And I was like, that's a really freeing idea. I want to do something. Building the Bride was so much fun. Every moment of that was just a blast because it's like, I don't know what I'm going to end up with. This is just like, it was a lark, but it was so much fun. And I think some of it is when you're saying this is going to be like my destiny. This is going to be my magnum opus. This is going to be my ultimate expression of my motorcycle. It's like, that's just too much emotional weight to put on a project. Because if it doesn't like ride great, look great, get finished like one of these, museum pieces that's just all polished and jewels and lustrous paint and no crappy welds and I'm like, I can't do that. And if I do that, it's going to cost me $50,000 that I don't want to spend on something that I'm not going to ride. So I'm like, it's not going to be a project I'm going to finish. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I want to go get a $350 little 125 semi-automatic, build it and see what it looks like. And if it's crap, it's crap. I don't care. I'm going to have fun. So
here's the thing is, I restored that. I have the 1970 Honda Trail 70, the sapphire blue one, which I put together with combinations of imported parts and other things. It looks the part. It rides exactly like you would expect it to ride, and I ride it almost every day. And I get it's really difficult to describe just how much enjoyment I get out of riding this 70cc Honda trail bike around. Now, I also have this V4 Tuono, which I don't really enjoy riding. It's really intimidating. It's just a lot to start, to hear, to run, to ride. And I find myself having a lot of enjoyment from my little, inexpensively put together Honda Trail 70. And that's, where I get my enjoyment. And so sometimes it is nicer to just have something that works, that rides, that's inexpensive versus, I have these other motorcycles that I intend to restore at some point, but also just the amount of effort, labor, and attention that it would take to get them to that point. It's almost daunting, right? And just having this little Honda trail bike that I can use that was inexpensive, it gets me on two wheels almost every day. And I just absolutely enjoy every moment of it. And I put the little rear foot pegs down. My kids put on their helmets. We can ride around the neighborhood. We go about 17.5 miles per hour top speed. But it is more enjoyable as a motorcycling experience than really any other motorcycle that I have or will ever have.
Well, and that's the thing is, I need to remember when I was 17, I had three older sisters. We had one car to share between four kids, and I was the youngest. I never got to go anywhere by myself without asking and negotiating, or I walked. And I bought a Honda 125. And first of all, I could leave whenever I wanted. It was mine. With one paycheck from the hardware store, I had it. It was mine. I could just take off. I didn't have to ask anybody. And then when I got on it and I rode down the street, it was like just riding at 20 miles an hour down my side street made me giggle. It was like, this is like the best part of a bicycle, a horse, a car, all rolled into one thing that it's just, I could go out and I just loved it. That's what made me fall in love. Now we have all these stories about racers and factories and stories about, you know, how they invented this special technique of either making something or doing something. And I love all of the industry stories and the racing stories and stuff. Ideally, it's still just about that fun of you can see everything going down the street, you can smell and hear, and it's just the best experience of just cruising down the street. And that's all I want to do. And I did that on the Bride when I finished the Bride, and it was something I built out of parts that didn't belong together. But when you get on it, it worked, and I could go cruise around the neighborhood. I'm like, that's the best feeling ever. And that's why that's what keeps me coming back.
Yep. No, I think you're right on that.
Well, should we wrap it up? We've been going for close to an hour.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's a good picture. I like that. That was a fun night.
The whole trip was really fun, and it's amazing we didn't know each other 10 years ago. It was Jeff at Hooniverse was like, yeah, hey, do a motorcycle podcast. That's a good idea. Go find some guys.
Yeah.
It's like
when I describe what we've done over the last 10 years to people that you know don't motorcycle, they don't podcast or anything else, it sounds like such an impossible story. Like, hey, there's this motorcycle podcast that's starting, and 3 people from 3 different states across the country came together to start this podcast. And, you know, it only took 10 years for us to actually all meet in person. But really a neat story. And I am just really appreciative for both of you and your friendship and, you know, how we've done this podcast and motorcycle conversation together.
And what's amazing is there were nights we stayed up until like midnight, 1:30 in the morning, talk about a whole bunch of other stuff having nothing to do with motorcycles that we just click on a whole other level. So, well, thank you guys. We'll get together and do this again sometime when we got something to talk about. So,
we sure will.
And hopefully next time we won't have to spend 40 minutes figuring out how to make StreamYard work.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right.
Shall we sign off?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'll hit the end stream button, and this will be the end of it. And it won't be the end for us because we like doing this enough. What's this? Oh, call you.
Hang
okay.
Loose. No.
Hang loose.
Yeah. It's the hang loose.
Yeah.
All good.
Okay. So long.
All right.
We're
So
gonna
long.
end it now.
Bye.